Today we are going to learn how to apply stylizations to our animation. There are different ways such as blending mode options, layer styles, and effects. But first let's learn how to create or import illustrations for our animation. We have multiple softwares that allows us to create illustrations and designs for our animation. For example, Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator. We can also create our design and illustrations directly in Adobe After Effects. For example, I have created this apple in Adobe Photoshop. In Adobe Photoshop, you can create multiple style of designs, and you can create your design in separate layers. So when you import that design into Adobe After Effects, you are able to animate each layer separately. This is the same case in Adobe Illustration. You can also download pre-made design and illustrations from internet. For example, in this website, FreePic, you are able to download vector images which are created in Adobe Illustrator or PSD images which are created in Adobe Photoshop. Some of these images are also created in separate layers, which allows you to animate each part of your image separately. One important thing to pay attention when downloading something from internet for our work is the copyright rules. For example, for this image, we have FreePic license, and you can find more information about this license here. There's also a part that gives us information on how we can attribute this design if we are using it in our work. If a design is free, it does not mean that we can use it without referencing the artist or the website. So please read the information here or in any other website carefully. So if you want to import your design into your composition, to do that, you double click in your project panel, find, for example, your Photoshop file, open it, and in this box you choose Composition, Retain Layer Size, and make sure that Editable Layer Size is selected and press OK. As soon as you do, you have a composition with the name of your file. If you double click, now you have your files open with all the layers inside, and you can start animating your design. This is the same for Adobe Illustrator. So you double click in your project panel, find your vector file, open it, choose composition, and either choose layer size or document size and press OK. You will have a composition with the name of your file, and if you double click, you can see your file open in a new composition. You can also create your design directly in Adobe After Effects. To do so, you create a composition and you can import an image as a reference. So here I decrease the opacity of my image so I can use it as a background layer. And then by choosing Pen tool, I start creating my illustrations. Pen tool and all its options allows you to create freehand design and then edit your design. One important thing to remember is if you are planning to create different parts of your illustration in different shape layer, just to make sure you have deselected the previous layer and then creating the new part. Okay, let's start applying some stylizations to our animation. The simplest way to do that is blending mode option. I have downloaded a noise texture file from internet, and I want to apply this noise texture into my illustration. I drag and drop this file above the apple layer, resize the image, and then from the blending mode menu, I can change blending mode options of this texture. Blending mode option allows us to blend pixels of two footages together. If you do not see this menu, you just need to click on toggle switch mode. So it's kind of hidden, and if you click on toggle switch mode, you can then see this menu. So you have multiple options. You can play with each and see what sort of result you get. I think overlay is a good option. The problem with this is I applied the texture that I want to my apple, but I still see the rest of the texture outside. I have to mask this part so I won't see it anymore. Because the mask needs to be exactly look like my apple, the simplest way to do so is to duplicate the apple layer, drag and drop the second apple layer above the texture, go back to the texture, and from the matte menu, choose Alpha Matte Shape Layer 7. When applying Alpha Matte to your texture, you are asking After Effects to use the above layer as a mask. Now, the second way to apply some texture to your image is layer style. If you right-click in your layer, you find layer style options here. You can give shadow, glow, stain, color overlay, gradient overlay, or stroke to your image. Let's start by giving an inner shadow. As soon as you apply a layer style to your shape layer, you see layer style options added to your option properties. You can expand inner shadow, and here you can change the color, you can change the opacity, size of your shadow, blending mode, and even the amount of noise. After applying that, now I have some white noise texture in some part of my image. I can do that for each layer separately, or if you are happy with the first layer style that you created, you can just copy the layer style and paste it in other layers. The third option to apply stylization is effect. It gives you a variety of options. You can find effect in the left side of your interface, effect and preset panel. If you don't see this panel in the left side, you just need to go to window menu and make sure it's checked. You can also find this panel in effect menu. So effects are categorized in different groups that gives you an idea what they do for you. For example, color correction are effects that allows you to work on your color. You can create noise or blur. To apply an effect to your image, you can search the name of the effect that you are looking for, or you can go to each group and find the effect that you want. Then you select the effect and drag and drop it on the layer that you want to apply the effect to. And as soon as you do that, you see the effect control panel open in the right side. So in this panel, you adjust and edit your effect. If I go to the layer that I apply the effect and press shortcut E or just expand my layer, I can see the effect is added as one of the options. So I can actually expand and edit my effect from here. You can also animate your effect. You can delete an effect by selecting the effect and pressing the delete key on your keyboard. Now I want to apply a cartoony effect and animation to this image. I also want to apply the effect to all of the layers. Instead of dragging and dropping the effect on each individual layer, I can create an adjustment layer above all and then apply my effect to the adjustment layer. So the adjustment layers helps you to apply any effect that you have to anything that is underneath this layer. To apply a cartoony effect, I use turbulence displace effect. And to create a sort of animation, I just need to animate the evolution of this effect. We can also apply the same effect twice to our image. So now I have this kind of shivering, cartoony animation and design, and but the speed of the animation is a bit fast. So what I want to do is to kind of stylize the motion. To do that, I add another effect called posterize time. As you see, the frame rate is 24, which is the frame rate of our composition. If I decrease this to, for example, 6, I will have a more stylized animation. Finally, I want to add an animated texture to the background of this design. To go back to my project panel, I just click on this icon and switch back to the project panel. I import another texture, drag and drop it to my composition, adjust the size. Right now, this texture has a black and white color, so I can change the tone of this single color in this texture by adding another effect called tint. When you are applying tint effect, you have the options to change the black color of your image to something else. I decrease the opacity, and now what I want to do is just to create an animation for this texture by simply animating the position and rotation options of this layer. What I do next is I select all the keyframes and I change them to toggle hold keyframe. So the animation jumps from one position to another position and it has a more interesting movement. The animation is kind of slow, so I need to put the keyframes closer to each other. And then just copy and paste them to repeat the motion. So compared to what we had in the beginning, now we have a more interesting design. Obviously, this is a personal choice. You might prefer a flat design, but if you want to, again, add some texture and a style to your design, you can use the options that we've worked with today. So let's work with a few more effects. I have this animation ready. First, I want to gradient my colors. What I can do is to search and add gradient ramp and change the color that I want here. Now I have a bit of gradient. Next thing I do, I create an adjustment layer above all my layers so I can apply any effect that I want to all of them. Now I apply an effect called noise HLS. These effects add some noise to our images. Next, I apply a scatter effect. This effect adds noise to the border of our images. So if you don't want the border of your image to be a sharp line, you can add this effect. So now I have an animation like this. I'm gonna add posterize time just to kind of stylize the whole motion. Please now go to Moodle and do the exercises for today's class. If you finish the first exercise and you still have time left, please do the rest of the exercises provided for this class.